So first, thank you, David, for being our musician today. Really nice to have you. Thank you. So, welcome to Unity of Syracuse, everyone. We are glad that you are all here. My name is Ann Wall, and I'm your platform assistant for today. And I wish to welcome not only everyone here, but everyone in live streaming out there. So blessings to everyone in this wonderful universe. We're going to open with the reading of today's daily word. Immersed in God's presence, I find strength and comfort. As he journeyed towards Jerusalem and the experience of the crucifixion, Jesus faced challenges from those who rejected his teachings. Even his disciples would leave him in his moment of greatest need. Jesus found strength and comfort in the awareness of God's presence that was always with him. I am not alone because the Father is with me. When I experience challenges, I remember that, like Jesus, I am never alone. I am God's living expression of God. In prayer, I center my thoughts and my feelings in my divine identity. God's presence fills my awareness. No external condition or circumstance can have power over me. God awareness continues to grow within me as I return to my daily activities. Jeremiah 31, I will comfort them and give them gladness for sorrow. Well, you know, when we're faced with challenges, how in heaven's name do you get to that place where you can feel that you're not alone and that God is with you? When we have the loss of a parent, when we have someone in the hospital that we're desperately worried about, when we have a child at school with all the kinds of things that happen nowadays with the worries, whatever the challenge is, how do I go from the worry and the thinking and all that goes into that personal identity, that personality that I have? How do I get from that to feeling I'm not alone? God is with me. And I was thinking about that earlier, because being a thinker instead of a feeler, sorry folks, but it's hard. Sometimes I think it's harder because you think. And that thinking just makes you feel all of those negative feelings even more. So how do you get from all of that to being back into that awareness, that consciousness that we all are, which is our divine identity? And I realized that for me, I began to realize that the clue is to get into your heart, to sit in your heart, and you will begin to experience the love. And then you will begin to realize that you're coming from within that divine expression of who you and I truly are. It takes a little bit of sitting, perhaps quickly, perhaps not so quickly, but it happens because as we connect with that deeper who we are, that love that's within us, the circumstances, the challenges change, because then we can truly say, I am not alone. I am with God. I have that power of God to be in these circumstances. And then we can go out and we can live our daily activities from that sense of Godness and from that sense of the power that is within us. And so we say amen to that. This is the portion where usually we have our children go downstairs for their wonderful time together, but this is our family service, so they're all going to be staying upstairs, and I see a few of them around. Okay, please stand for our statement of being. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And now please greet one another however you want to do that. And we speak to our live streaming people to greet one another as well. And we have our announcements. Community outreach, monthly meeting today in the green room at 12:30. Yes? Okay. Good Friday service, April 19th at 6:30 p.m. Nehemiah Project. Volunteers are needed for any of the following Sunday afternoons, April 14th and April 28th, from 1 to 3 p.m. Maybe you have, this is telling me to do something. Stacy, do you have any comment you want to make on that?
I would just say to report to Patty Oatman on those days, because she will let you know what still needs to be cleaned and or repaired. But on the last day, on the 28th, Kate Farrar actually needs people to help move the gravel that is dumped off by the delivery people at the edge of the parking lot, and then that gets distributed. So she needs some strong hands to help move the pebbles, particularly on the 28th.
Okay, thank you. Please see the team sign-up sheets in the fellowship hall to add where you can be of service to our church. And where might we find those? Is it at the bookstore? Okay. They are located in, well, this says they're located on the bulletin board to the right. I should read these things ahead of time. So either way, please, if you have already been doing this for a long time, please sign up anyway, because we want to make sure that all the names are there. So we need to see those names getting there. We are still looking for a team lead for the kitchen. So if anyone could, think about that, maybe even two of you together, but if anyone would be willing to step up to the plate, and even if you want to think about it in a new way, who knows? Maybe we'll come up with a new thought, but somehow or other, it is an important aspect of our community, isn't it? And it's a way of serving that's a lot of time. So just, if your heart gets so moved, to take that extra step. And now our YFM teachers, they're meeting next Sunday at 12:30. And since this is our family ministry day, we are going to have someone come up and introduce the power of the month.
Good morning. Curtis is going to read for us today.
The power of the month is love. The disciple is John. Color, pink. Location, back of the heart.
Thanks.
Thank you, Curtis. And now, birthdays. Anybody having a birthday in April, would you stand? Let's see if we have any April birthdays. There we go. There's one. Yay. And somebody up, yes. Oh, and Leland. Okay, we got two, and I'm sure there's others on the thing. So. And now we welcome our guests. So, is there anyone here for the second or third time, perhaps? Or maybe hasn't been here in a while? Okay. Is there anyone here for the first time? Would you stand if you are? All right. And our ushers have a gift for you. Our gift of a candle represents the light of spirit shining within you. And attached to your welcome packet is a yellow slip. So please fill it out so we can get to know you, and take it downstairs to the bookstore for an additional gift. Did everyone? No, we have one more. Who else did not get their candle? A special welcome. And we invite everyone downstairs in our fellowship hall to just be together after the service and sit together and enjoy our company. And now on the screen you can see our 5 basic principles, and these are the basic tenets of unity. Might there be 2 of you who have seen one of them demonstrated in your life in the past last week? And if we can keep our sharing to 1 or 2 minutes, and we already have 2 hands up. Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lucy.
Hi, Lucy.
So I've had this pretty incredible week. It's working. Working? It's working. So I know that I am the picture of health, inside and out. This, I can't tell you how much I know that. I also know I'm surrounded by love everywhere I go, and that angels just keep on putting themselves in my path. So I went to the ER for a pretty serious health problem this week, and all of a sudden I'm now going to 2 specialists, actually 3 in April, because they uncovered some pretty potentially scary things, but I can't tell you. I have a background in healthcare, for those of you who don't know me, in emergency health and education, rehabilitation. So part of me knows that you don't want to ignore some of this information, and yet I know so well that I am whole and healthy and the picture of health. I know I'm blessed every day. And there is so much love in my life from my family, my friends, my partner, and all of you here at Unity. And this is my truth. I don't want to ignore, my traditional background tells me, Lucy, you can handle all this information. And I just can't tell you that the overriding truth is that I am grounded and blessed and incredibly whole inside and out, in health, in spirit, in mind, and in soul. So thank you all for helping to reinforce that in me. You certainly have made an incredible difference in my life. So as far as the principles, I think it's all of them.
Yes. Love. Someone else? I think there was another hand up. Well, I think that really said it all, didn't it? Amen. All right, now is the prayer portion of the service. Will the prayer chaplains please stand? Every Sunday from 10:45 to 10:55, prayer chaplains are available to pray with you and again after the service. And at this time, we bless our prayer intentions or requests, and we have our prayer box forward. Unity was founded in prayer. At Silent Unity, prayer has been continuous for nearly 130 years. If you have not placed your written prayer intention in our prayer box, you can do so at the end of the service, or you can pray silently with us during this time. Prayer intentions are held in prayer here in confidence for 30 days. We do not see them, look at them, read them, whatever. And then we mail them on to Silent Unity, where they are held in prayer for another 30 days. So we pray.
As we just enter into that heart space, we pray, Mother, Father, Divine Spirit of the living God, as we have moved through this Lenten season of fasting and feasting, we continue to feast in the love that is ours, from the God that is within and moving through all of us. We know our prayers are heard and answered. We affirm that comfort, strength, and love are ours. We can actually fast from worry, from anxiousness, and simply settle into the heart space, knowing that the divine Spirit of God is right there with us at all times and in all ways. Amen.
We are now entering the meditative portion of our service. So I invite you to relax, close your eyes, and if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, focus on one spot in the room, for there is no spot where God is not. And as you breathe deeply, breathing in, breathing out, I invite you to imagine yourself in a beautiful spring garden, flowers around you, and you notice a comfortable bench, and you approach this bench and gently take a seat. And you notice that you are surrounded by a beautiful white light. All the flowers are giving off this beautiful white light. And into your mind comes the face of someone to whom you have not been kind at one time or another in your life. And you imagine that person coming into the garden, sitting next to you. And you turn to the person and say, I love you. I love you. And I will do a kindness for you going forward. For doing a kindness to anyone is an act of divine love. And you feel your energy melding with the energy of that person with whom you have experienced a kindness. And you feel the compassion and love that this kindness brings. For kindness is divinity. To be kind to another is to be the divine spirit in that other's life. And so I invite you to sit in silence, breathing in sacred kindness, releasing all thoughts of negativity as we gently move into the silence. And as you relax in this silence, you gently begin to bring your awareness back to the room, back to this sanctuary, holding within your heart the knowing that to be kind is to be the divine light in the life of others, and the divine light that is within you always as life, as God showing up in the world as you. So I ask you to begin to feel your presence in this room. Feel yourself sitting in a pew. Feel the wonderful energy of the sanctuary. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Wow. Thank you. A deep and heartfelt thank you to you, David Cowdery. Let's have another round of applause for him. He stepped up to the plate when our regular musicians are both out of town unexpectedly at the same time, and I am so grateful. Thank you very much. Debussy's Clair de Lune is one of my favorite songs. So there are no accidents. Spirit does indeed lead us in the directions in which we need to go. Thank you again. So this is Family Sunday, and I am Patsy Scala, and I have a book for those children who are here because our children are joining us, and those people who are young at heart. I invite you to come up and sit down and listen to a story that is called Kindness is Cooler, Mrs. Ruler. So we did a meditation about kindness. Now, forgive me, there is no light on here, so I'm going to put on glasses to read, but that's okay. That makes me look more like a teacher, right? So, okay, I have some wonderful young in years and young at heart people up here. So anybody else who has an inner child, come on up. Okay, so this is the title of the book. This is where my lesson title came from. And this is Mrs. Ruler's class. It was cold and rainy, and Mrs. Ruler's class hadn't been outside all week. The students were getting jumpy and grumpy. Anya and Tawana whispered during story time. There's Anna and Tawana whispering. How many of you ever whispered during story time in class? Curtis, you would never do that, would you? Dharma, would you do Freya? Anyway, David pulled Raquelita's ponytail, and Raquelita stole his hat. Then David grabbed Connor's hat and threw it into the hall. That's enough, too rough, shouted Mrs. Ruler. The bell rang. It was time for recess, and as the kids left, Mrs. Ruler asked Tawana, Connor, Raquelita, David, please to stay. And she says, now tell me why you think I have kept you from recess. We were acting up, muttered Connor. That's right, you were being mean to one another. You think meanness is cool. It isn't. There's something cooler. Who can tell us what's cooler? Raquelita spoke up. Kindness is cooler, Mrs. Ruler. So the story goes on to show how each of these children were given an assignment by Mrs. Ruler. And that assignment was, you go out into your days today, you go home, and you perform at least one act of kindness every day. So David, one of the kids, said, I can't do that. It's too hard. I can't be kind every day. But the other four, Raquelina and Ania and Tawana and Connor, they all thought, well, we can do this. We can be kind. So next day they all came back and they said, Mrs. Ruler said, what kindness did you do? And they did little things like fed their dogs, dried the dishes for their mom, set the table for their dad, little things like that. Even told their mom she was pretty. How many moms would love to be told they're pretty? Well, I'm one. But David said, and by the way, he was not our David who showed us a great kindness. It's a very different David. David said, I couldn't think of anything to do. So Raquelita said, why don't you come home with me and I'll show you some ways that you can be kind. So David went home with Raquelita, And she showed him the little things that we can do around the house to bring kindness into our world. Just the simple little things. Picking up leaves that are on the sidewalk. Picking a flower and giving it to your dad or your mom. Tiny little things. One act of kindness can change the heart of one person. And one person can change the heart of the world. Do you believe that? I do. And at the end of the year, when Mrs. Ruler tallied all of the kindnesses that her children had done, it came up to be thousands of kindnesses. And they changed their classroom. And that's what I'm going to challenge us to do today as adults and as children of all ages, okay? So, I'm going to be talking about kindness, and I'm going to be using my notes if I can figure out how to turn this on. You know how to turn it on? Okay. I'm just going to have to do it without it being turned on. Oh, thank you for your act of kindness, kid. I appreciate that. Well, anyway, Mrs. Ruler and her class learned that kindness, acts of kindness, are the coolest things we can do. It's cool to be kind. So, let's be cool today. We learned from the children that kindnesses are not hard to do. Can be as easy as setting a table for your family, feeding your animal. It's simple service to another. And everyone can be kind, and the kinder we are, the better the world we live in. So, because I Google everything, I Googled kindness because I wanted to see what Dr. Google said about kindness, and this is what I found. Kindness promotes empathy and compassion, which in turn leads to a sense of interconnectedness with others. Do we not all feel interconnected at this moment? When we practice acts of kindness, it releases an energy, and we feel better, and the recipients of our acts feel better, which makes them more likely to be kind to other people. So kindness is kind of like a good virus. The kinder you are, the more people catch your kindness, right? Kindness makes us feel better. It makes everyone feel better. And it's also a way of serving others. Wayne Dyer, the late Wayne Dyer, who was one of my favorite spiritual teachers, said that if we have a choice of being right or being kind, we must always choose being kind. Always. And in his book, Excuses Be Gone, he talked about the kindness of service. And he said, if we truly want anything for ourselves, the only kind way to get it is to give what we want to another who needs it more than we do. So I asked myself, and now I ask you, what is the kindest thing you can do in this moment? What is the kindest thing you can do to another? In any situation, in life. What does this mean as we move through our days? And how do we really do this? We do it through service. Service to others. Service to those people and organizations that mean something to us. Nobel Prize-winning Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore wrote this. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Did you notice the way the children in this book grew happier? Now, I didn't read through the whole book because, number one, it's really long, and number two, it's really wordy, so I told the story. But the children were all happy. They weren't fighting anymore once they were kind to one another. If you want something for yourself, the best way to get it is to offer it to someone else. If we can give kindness to one another, we prove that we have it within us. If we give any sort of service, any sort of gift to another person, it proves that we have that gift within us. So let's take some real life situations and see how we can use kindness as a way of service. So let's start with looking at our church mission, which is Leland is going to put up on the screen, and how kindness can let us live in alignment with our mission. We need to serve others. We need to give. And we need to bring this kindness into our daily routine. So we're all here at this church at this moment now. And all of you out in love streaming land, many of you are church members or friends and family of church members. So here we are within a church that at this moment is moving all of us, our children and our adults, through a huge opportunity to change and rediscover who we are. Because who we are feels a little different right now than it did last year, doesn't it? It feels a little different to me. But we've been offered an opportunity to use kindness and service in order to grow into who our mission says we are. So, how many of you in general know our mission statement by heart? And if somebody asked you, what is this church unity all about? Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. A lot of people know about unity, but they don't necessarily know exactly about our mission. I think most of you know I'm a real estate agent, so I'm dealing with, in our conference room, I'm dealing with a buyer who's sitting here and a seller who's sitting there, and I'm working with them together, okay? Because I figured that would be the easiest way to work with them, and it's about a piece of property that is in another area, but they both live in Nedrow. So one of them asked me, is there any way that we can all get together at some place that's closer to where we live than your office is? And I said, well, sure, I'm at Unity Church all the time. And I said, we could get together at Unity Church if you wanted to. And the buyer says, we are all one in God. And the seller says, and God is everything there is. And I said, hey, wait a minute, if you know what we stand for, why don't you come on Sundays? Now, I haven't seen either one of them on a Sunday, but anyway, they knew who we were. Our kindnesses and our beliefs and our divinity had spread to these two people who never knew each other before, whom I never knew before. And all of a sudden I said, well, we could meet at Unity Church because that's where I go, and they knew what it was. Anyway, let's revisit our mission statement. Unity of Syracuse inspires, awakens, and transforms lives through unlimited love, prayer, and service. If that isn't kindness, I don't know what is. And on our website, we state that Service to others is the highest activity to which we can aspire. So I ask you again, what is the kindest act you can do right here, right now, that helps toward our mission? These two beautiful young girls are doing a great act of kindness in sitting and listening to me, right? Because I'm not on a children's story anymore. I'm on some adult material. And I really appreciate the kindness that you're showing me. And I'll be kind enough to you to say if you'd rather go back and sit in your seats, it's okay, but I love to have you up here. Anyway, this is the second Sunday of the Nehemiah Project that Ann mentioned when she was doing the announcements, and that Stacy talked some more about. Our outreach team offers us this Nehemiah Project, which is a way to be kind. So who was Nehemiah anyway? He was a governor in Persia who, when the walls of Jerusalem were torn down, approached the king and said, "May I rebuild the walls?" And he did. We might have called it the St. Francis Project because when St. Francis was sitting in a church in Assisi, the Church of San Damiano in Assisi, Italy, he saw a cross, and the Christ came off the cross and said, "Rebuild my church." Now, what was intended, I think, was rebuild it on a psychological level, but Francis actually rebuilt the church on a physical level. The Nehemiah Project idea began at Unity Village, and there are people from this church right now, one of whom is operating audio, who went to Unity Village and worked on the Nehemiah Project, doing little fix-up jobs. We have an opportunity to rebuild this church through this Nehemiah Project, fixing little things like moving gravel. I mean, is that a kindness? Oh yeah, you bet it's a kindness, an important kindness. We have the opportunity to create something that we contribute to. So how can we, as we approach Easter, offer kindness and service as our mission statement says we do? What can you do here? Maybe help with moving gravel. Maybe you could help the people who put out the signs. I know Tavion does that, so one of our children is already involved in this. Maybe coming up with an idea for a special project that you're willing to run with. So some more situations we might face in our everyday life. The greatest kindness we can offer anyone is to act in service of him or her. And we have opportunities to do this every day. We always have the choice to smile at a stranger, don't we? Or to pay an honest compliment to someone. Think about it. As we approach Easter, we know that Jesus washed the feet of the disciples. That's an act of kindness. And if Jesus could do that, we can certainly do something. I have this thing in my mind that I want to leave people feeling better than they felt before I came up to them. Does it always happen? No. Does it usually happen? Yes. And the way I do this is, I'm going through a grocery line and the person in front of me is taking a long time, and do I get annoyed? No. I use that time to breathe and to meditate. And then when I get up to the counter, I make certain that I say something nice, something complimentary, something kind to the person behind the counter. No matter where I go, I try to find something that I can compliment someone on, making them feel better than they felt before. This is the goal toward which I strive. Now, just so you don't think I'm perfect, let me tell you about something that happened the other day. My internet went out at home. And for those of you who know how much I use the internet, especially on my phone, you know that this was a little bit disconcerting to me. So my internet service is provided by Frontier. So I called Frontier and I said, my internet service is down. Can you check my account to see if there's a problem with it? So the lady said, yes, I can check your account, but you have to give me the date of birth that's on your account. So I gave her my date of birth. Now, obviously, I know my date of birth, okay? She said, that is not the date that we have down for your account. So I said, well, it's possible that on the account you have my husband's date of birth because he's the one that opened the account. So I gave her his date of birth. No, that's not the one we have either. At this point, I was feeling anything but kind. So I said, well, it's possible that since my daughter shares some of our internet service through Verizon, it's her birth date that's on the account. So I said, let me give you my daughter's birth date. I did. She said, I'm sorry, that's not the date we have either. Well, I know my birth date. I know when Joe was born, and I know when Laura was born. So in good unity fashion, I said to this lady, I hate Frontier. I hate this. Your service is horrible, and how can you not have my birthday? I know what my... And when I finally stopped, she said, I'm sorry you had this experience. I wish you a nice day. And boy, you can imagine how I felt when she said that. So immediately, I said, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. That is not the person that I wanted to be. So we all stumble, but we can all come back from it. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not standing up here preaching that I'm perfect, because 2 days ago I wasn't with Frontier. Anyway, so let's look at some of the words in our mission statement. We say that we inspire, that we awaken, and that we transform lives. Let's look at what that means. That woman who works for Frontier, in a way, transformed my life and inspired me to be good under all circumstances and kind under all circumstances. How do we inspire people? How many times do you actually tell somebody, I appreciate you? We can do that. We can do that whether we're 9 or 5 like Freya is, or 90. Every human on this planet has something within us that's good and beautiful. And if we want to be kind, we can find that something that's good and beautiful. And a compliment given from the heart can inspire a person to be the best that he or she can be. There's an apocryphal tale of Jesus walking along with the apostles, and they come upon a dead dog. I don't know if this tale is true or not. That's why it's apocryphal, which, by the way, means it's a story. It's a possibly made-up story. But they come upon this dead dog, and the disciples are saying, phew, That dog stinks. And Jesus looks at the dog and says, but it has beautiful teeth. There's something good in everything. So what about awakening others? I mean, don't we get awake by an alarm clock? Well, that's not what I mean by awakening. Even Oprah's latest issue is about being woke, which in political terms means aware of injustices and aware of what's going on in the world. But in spiritual terms, it can mean aware that we are one in our divinity and united on this planet in our humanity. How can we awaken people who are arguing about one side or another, as I did with Frontier, to the truth that we are all one? And we do it through kindness. We do. Small acts of service, little things that we do. Dharma, a couple of weeks ago, came up to me and out of the blue told me that she liked the chili that I make. You know, that made me feel really great. It made me feel wonderful. Thank you. We can do small acts of service like that, and some people might think we're up to something, but if we have an open heart, what we do is we warm people to the kindness inside of them. That's what prayer chaplains do. We do affirmative prayer, affirming the best and highest for everyone. Affirming love. As Akoshua says, we stand in love. And love is the greatest form of kindness. And we transform others. What does that mean? Well, Mrs. Ruler's class transformed itself from being rather unruly to being a class that concentrated on kindness. We don't have to go through radical transformation the way a caterpillar does to become a butterfly. But we can go through small acts of transformation. Transforming our church into the loving community that we say we are. You can transform your family's children. Now, the parents are going to not like me very much right now, but what if you want to transform your family by getting a dog or a cat? Have you ever thought about transforming the life of an animal and adopting an animal from a shelter and making that animal part of your family? My cat is a rescue cat, rescued after she was dropped off in the country and wandered up my driveway. And I have to say that the love that she gives me is incomparable. She runs down the stairs to meet me when I come home. And then when I put my bag down next to the kitchen counter, she comes up and she headbutts me and she cuddles with me. How wonderful is that? Remember the mantra. What is the kindest thing I can do right now, right here, in this situation? Will it change others? Will it change the world? Well, you know, what happens when one person in a group yawns? Everybody yawns, right? I'm not going to yawn up here. And I haven't seen anybody yawn. I'm really glad. That means you're not bored. But doesn't it work the same way with a smile? If you smile, somebody smiles back at you. Doesn't a kind act do the same thing? Doesn't it transform someone into saying, that was really nice. That made me feel good. So let's enter this Easter season with a special goal in mind. Let's all resolve to perform at least one act of kindness one act of selfless service. That means you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the other. Every day. It's a lot greater act of love than giving up chocolate, although that's hard. Let's resolve always to respond in kindness and to live that principle of namaste, which means the divine in me honors, respects, and loves the divine in you. That's the namaste principle that we do when we live in service. So my affirmation for today is a little longer than that, but that's enough. I am kind and I always do what is the kindest thing I can do in every situation. So let's take a deep breath and take that into our minds and hearts. And say it together, even if let's just say these 3 words. Because to add on, I always do what is the kindest thing in every situation. Did I do the kindest thing in my call with Frontier? I did not. I did not. So we all falter. We all stumble. That's the human part of the divine human. But we are always kind. And so let's close our eyes, put our hands over our hearts, and say together, I am kind. Breathe that into your heart. And one more time, please. I am kind. Thank you very much. I love all of you. Thank you for listening. And now it's time for our tithes and offerings. So.
Love you back.
What? So I invite you to take your tithe and offering in your hand and hold it, imbue it with your energy. Give it the love and the kindness that you feel. And join with me in saying our love offering blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive. Thank you, God. You are my source. This divine love also blesses all that we are. What is the kindest thing I can do in this moment now? What is the most loving thing I can do in this moment now? What act of kindness can I do that will bring the greatest blessing to even one person? I believe, oh yes, I believe that kindness can change the world. I believe that love can change the world. I believe that music can change the world. I believe that giving in service can change the world. We honor and bless these offerings, and we are so grateful for the gift of each of you and for the gift from each of you. And we affirm that these tithes and offerings will go to grow our church, to grow us in love, to grow us in kindness, to grow us in all ways. And so it is.
Amen.
So now we have our young ones right here, so we're not, so we're going to bless them. And we're going to bless, as we bless our children, the inner child within each of us, because we all have that child that's within us. But we especially want to bless the 3 children that are here with us, Curtis, Dharma, and Freya, with our children's blessing, and all children all over the world. We bless our children wherever they are. We see them surrounded by love and light throughout the week. We have a thriving, expanded youth and family ministry. And now our prayer for protection, and please listen to these words. Affirm them as our truth rather than something we are seeking, for the light of God is always within us. So the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And now,